recent days show what Trump is being targeted again. Trump calls out interference with the election. For Jack Smith to come out within 60 days before the election with this new unsealing of the court documents, trying to get his truth that Trump is to be prosecuted and that he wants all the American people to see. This is so close to the election. It's not coincidence. They're definitely working on this and doing this on purpose. Also, the feds are saying that there's no money left to respond to hurricane victims after FEMA spent, get this, $640 million on migrants. So we don't have enough money to help people who have been hurt through the hurricanes because we gave $640 million to migrants. On top of that, we're not counting over the $200 billion to overseas wars. We also have a new whistleblower with the feds who has revealed that yes, Tim Walz does have direct ties to the CCP, the China Communist Party. We have also more breaking news of what's going on with Biden and Harris pertaining to the response of Hurricane Helene. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. We want to serve you every day with the top news. And just want to say thank you to everybody that supports me and my family with the super chat donations on the channel. We are so grateful and thankful. And we just want to give you the best show every single day and show you the truth. Also, don't forget, join the True Life News family. The link is in the description to join. We appreciate all the support and just want to continue doing good things with that money that we're getting and just bringing positive change. So we're going to jump right into it. We've got a lot of breaking news today. Check it out.
Meanwhile, back here in the United States, new court filings unsealed yesterday in special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into President Donald Trump.
But the former president is calling out the DOJ's timing, posting, quote, "For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with the case. They disobeyed their own rule in favor of complete and total election interference."
Joining us now is Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. So Jack Smith, he gets overturned by the courts all the time. And I just get an impression, Greg, that he's trying to litigate this case before the public and not before the courts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's trying to have a damning trial of Trump without a trial in the face of the fact that he couldn't get a trial before the election. And, you know, releasing this motion, this court filing, it sure looks like blatant election interference. Lawrence, you know, Trump's lawyers urged the judge, keep it sealed. It'll impact the election. The judge did it anyway with almost no discussion, and there's no good reason to make it public. It's premature. There isn't even a trial date. So I think this was done knowing full well media and Democrats would seize on provocative details, publicize it to affect voters and damage Trump. And sure enough, as I looked at television, the internet, newspapers, that's what's happening.
But Greg, is there really much new here? I mean, Jack Smith has already made his case before the public and painted it broadly. This just has some detail to it that we had not heard before. And Trump's own lawyers don't even want to respond to any of the stuff he wrote about until 3 weeks after the election, and they won't have to.
So much of it, Steve, you're right, is gratuitous. At times it reads like bad detective fiction. A lot of it is irrelevant and inadmissible. Conversations that other people had that are not connected to Trump directly. So it seems like deliberate election interference. And the incendiary details notwithstanding, Smith's basic accusations are the same that we've heard all along. Nothing's changed. The theme that Trump deceived people, well, if he honestly believed he won, it's hard to prove otherwise.
What do you as a lawyer think he's doing? Is he trying to manipulate the language? I mean, because you say it's basically the same. Is he manipulating the language to get around that immunity decision?
Yeah, I mean, that's his great challenge, is to somehow circumvent the immunity decision here, and that's what this motion is all about. The problem for Smith is a lot of his evidence and testimony comes from public officials and their conversations with Trump, including the vice president. Under the Supreme Court decision, that may well be protected information and thus inadmissible. In the filing, Smith asserts nothing's protected. And then all of a sudden he concedes, well, some of it is protected and immune, but I can rebut the presumption of immunity. Well, that'll be up to a judge.
Exactly.
This is so, I mean, it's so blatant. That's what bothers me, is that instead of trying to win fair, instead of having free and fair elections, they did this last time. They're trying to do it again. They hid the Hunter Biden laptop story. Now they're trying to do all this election interference with all the courts and all these things right before the election. Like, it just shows you how far they're willing to go to try to keep Donald Trump out of office. And that's not just, this is just the beginning of it. Check out these details.
Let's go. We're coming out firing today on all cylinders. Synthetic oil only. Folks, what happened yesterday with the deep state is freaking disgusting. Jack Smith, who is the special tyrant to special counsel investigating the fake crime of the insurrection, Jack Smith was tasked with a job. You may say, as a special counsel in the DOJ, by the way, unconstitutionally appointed, this ridiculous human being who may be one of the worst lawyers in America, he has gotten his in court on some of the biggest cases of our time because Jack Smith sucks. I know you're listening, Jack Smith. We have the biggest live show there. You suck. You're a legal embarrassment. You're a disgrace to the country. You're a laughing stock. Everybody thinks you're a joke. And your only chance at redeeming your garbage, trash can reputation, because you're a laughing stock legal joke across the board, is to tyrannically, in this fascist manner, go after Donald Trump and try to interfere in this election. So what did they do? You see this article at Politico. They dropped what's known as a superseding indictment. Let me just translate the legalese, a guy who was in the justice system for a long time. You can basically charge someone and arrest them or detain them or bring charges via a few different documents in the government. You can do an information, you can do a complaint, or you can do an indictment. They all generally lead to the same thing, which is going to be charges, which will be a trial if you don't plea out. It's not that hard. You can also draw up a superseding indictment, which says, hey, we have some more stuff we want to give you. So the last thing you read, we're going to bring this one. An indictment typically is a little more serious than a complaint. A complaint's easier to dismiss. When it comes to a case like this, a serious case like this, not serious in that the charges are serious, serious in that we have a tyrant using the weaponized government system to interfere in an election, they'll typically use an indictment, which is a little bit harder to get rid of and dump. A complaint's kind of something you do last minute if you want to get an arrest warrant. That's what we did in the Secret Service a lot. The superseding indictment. I want you to understand, Jack Smith has gotten his over this case in the courts. The Supreme Court has already told Jack Smith, hey, Jack, oh man, I want to say something so bad. I'm so sick of this guy's, even tell you, it's like crazy when you have communists right in front of your face doing commie stuff, and the media is not willing to call it out. I mean, their sole job as the fourth estate is such obvious government corruption. He drew up this superseding indictment, which is basically just what Jack Smith says. It doesn't mean any of it's actually true. I can say anything. I could say, Guy's Jason Voorhees and has killed people up at Camp Crystal Lake. It doesn't mean it's true. It means the government says it. The government says a lot of... The government said Donald Trump colluded with the Russians in a pee-pee tip. The government said George Papadopoulos was some kind of freaking foreign spy. Only believe that stuff. So Judge Chutkan, who's another disgrace to humankind, an absolute disgusting garbage person who obviously is not a judge. What did she do? She says to Jack Smith,
Doreen Bryson, thank you so much for the super chat. Everybody show Doreen some love in the chat. We have Pam Campbell, who is a new member to the True Life News family. Everybody show Doreen and Pam some love in the chat.
Yeah, we're 33 days before an election or whatever it is. You go out and put out this fairy tale document, unredacted, release it to the public because we want to make Donald Trump who was questioning an obviously flawed election. We want to make it look like he stole this thing and caused an insurrection. This is the most disgusting act of election interference I've seen in a long time.
He calls
You're
it out,
waiting for an
y'all.
October surprise? Here it is. Here's the good news. There's good news with this? Yes, there is. Put up that Politico headline again. This thing's a nothing burger. Read it. It's a total joke. It's an embarrassing joke. There is nothing in there you haven't heard. And here's the hilarious part. There's nothing even in there even remotely surprising or shocking. Donald Trump was calling out basically a flawed election for what it was, a flawed election, which the Democrats have done in every presidential election they've lost since like 1492. Okay, I get it. You get the point. This is bull. Document is a laughing stock. It fell on deaf ears.
But this is what bothers me so much. Jack Smith, who is a special counsel lawyer, is allowed to go out there, put out all these statements about Trump, saying he did this, this is what we believe. He hasn't been convicted, but this is what we believe, this, and this, and nothing happens to him. But then Trump can't even say Hunter Biden laptop, and yet everybody's going crazy. They're trying to remove him from the air. They are censoring people across Facebook and all this because Trump says that. You see how twisted it is and one-sided it is just because these people work the DOJ for Biden.
Not going to change a single freaking vote in the country. All Jack Smith did in this superseding indictment, which I've seen now, all he did is change basically the word, or public to private. That basically Donald Trump was acting as his private self. Really, as the chief executive of the United States, it's his job to question an election if he believes there was corruption. That's his actual job, to go and enforce the law as the president and chief executive.
Right there.
Jack Smith's just a bag. He's a total canoe. He's an obvious fascist and tyrant right now. He's reaching and grasping, and it's kind of hilarious because they're trying to distract you right now. It's tragic, but it's almost funny, the desperation. You are only going to martyr this guy again. Nobody believes you. People are laughing at you. Everybody thinks you're morons. And if we win this thing in 33 days, I'm going to look back and laugh in Judge Chutkan's dopey face. Also, Jack Smith, for the freaking tyrant that he is. Imagine being this guy's neighbor, knowing you live next to a freaking hardcore hammer and sickle Soviet commie. What a disgusting piece of garbage this guy is. And you're a joke. You're a freaking joke. I make my point. Here's why Jack Smith's doing what he's doing. Disgusting Jack Smith. Jack Smith's doing what he's doing because he needs to distract you from four things going on right now. In what I candidly believe may be the worst week in presidential election modern history for a candidate, and that candidate's Kamala Harris. I'm going to go through it one by one, but let me just lay out all four in the beginning because you know I hate teases. There's no time for it.
Crazy.
I don't like it. You just had on their watch a candidate and his vice president who ran on bringing back normalcy. Did they not? Liberal D-bags, did you not run on that? Biden and Harris were the chaotic Trump years. We're going to bring back normalcy, folks. We're going to be respected around the world again, as if we weren't before. And what happened? The minute oatmeal brains and this loser vice president got in office, the world is on freaking fire.
100%.
The Russians invaded Ukraine. The Houthis are bombing up the Red Sea. You can't even, shipping lanes are closed. You can't. And what happened? The largest ballistic missile attack on a sovereign country in modern history just happened with the Iranians, who Biden's...
I had to cut out the next part because he gets a little too graphic. Don't want to hurt or get in trouble with YouTube, y'all. But I'm telling you this. What we're seeing with Jack Smith, all the details that are coming out, because more details are coming out, it literally bothers me that we literally are so close to an election and they have the audacity to come out and say, what? We're just going to unseal these documents. We're just going to do this with Trump. And it's like, I hope people see this crap. It's 100% interference. Tell me I'm wrong. I want to see it in the chat because This is too close. It's 100% trying to steer the media narrative away from Hurricane, where Biden and Harris don't have enough money to give to Americans because they've given it to migrants. Steering it away from the dang World War III we're about to enter into with Israel. Steering it away from the whole disaster with the unions and the ports, 45,000 people refusing to work, and saying that they're willing to cripple the United States to get their way. And then this is more details. Check it out.
Election case against Trump. They highlight Trump's so-called increasingly desperate efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Andrew Cherkesky joins me now, former federal prosecutor. Trump calls this election interference, that is a politicized move by the administration. My question is, why did they release all these details before they got a trial date? Why did they do that?
Well, this is Jack Smith's last best effort to give a closing argument before the election. Remember, he was desperate to get in front of a jury before the election. That didn't happen because the Supreme Court shut that down back in July. So this is him trying to get the facts out to the American people, trying, I think, to persuade people to believe that his case is what he says it is. And in some circles, that's the idea of election interference. He's prosecuting election interference, yet he's putting out a message that is trying to persuade the electorate what he thinks the truth is. Now, that truth that he's putting out there hasn't been very successful. He's been shut down by courts time and time again. This will be up for review by not only the district court, but also will go directly to the appellate courts and then ultimately to the Supreme Court, whichever way they rule. So it would be a real tragedy if people are persuaded.
And the worst thing about this is the appeals courts where Trump has already given the New York hush money trial case. They've already sent it to the appellate court. The appeals court are up there and they've already said, why did this case even go to trial? Why did y'all use this evidence? This whole case is falling to pieces just as we're digging through this. This trial should have never happened. And then they're trying to do this. They're all trying to control the optics right before the election.
By this, and it turns out that he was wrong in the end.
Will there be any ruling before the election? Any ruling of any kind?
No, there will be time for the defense to respond potentially before the election, but we're not going to see rulings, and we're certainly not going to see any appeals before then. So this is all just kind of left out there and for people to read between the lines and try to find the fodder that they want. But I caution against that because this is just adversarial fighting back and forth, and Jack Smith's, again, his credibility on his perceptions of the law and the facts, they're untested and they've been wrong many times in the past.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to move on to another subject. New York City's mayor, as you know, Eric Adams, he'll likely face more charges in his federal corruption case. What kind of additional charges could be coming? Do you have any knowledge of them?
Well, there's no specifics about what's going to be coming. The prosecutors are saying that they are looking at a potential superseding indictment. This may be because they don't like his initial response. They don't like that he hasn't stepped down yet. They don't like that he's essentially rebuked the prosecutors in his public statements. So this may be their effort to put more pressure on him to finally back down. You know, he says that this is lawfare at work. The prosecutors say they've got a very strong case. Well, two things can be true at the same time, and that might be true here, that he has a bad case against him, that he might be going down for this, but also they might be treating him unfairly in his view.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Let me tell you this guy, Eric Adams, was literally on the campaign team for Biden and Harris. Now, he did speak out against them when it came to the migrants that they sent flooding New York City because of all the crap that they have to deal with, putting them in luxury hotels. But this is really the breaking news right now. The feds say that there's no money left to respond to hurricane victims. There's no money left to respond or do anything with it because FEMA spent $640 million on migrants. This is where we're at right now. This is the America Last agenda. This is stepping over Americans to help out illegal migrants or whoever. And this is the administration. Now, this is breaking news. A lot of people are upset over it. John Kennedy, he just posted something about it. And just, they can't believe it that we won't even put a priority to take care of our American citizens. It's like they feel abandoned. And it's like, what the heck are we doing? Check this out.
Joining me now is Tulsi Gabbard, former Congresswoman, member of Trump's transition team. Tulsi, you saw it with the administration's rather slow-footed response to the Maui wildfires. But Kamala's team said, look, she came to Washington today and she got briefed and they're on it. Does that satisfy your concerns?
No, Laura, not at all. And this is, first of all, my heart goes out to all of those who've seen their lives and families and homes and communities devastated by this hurricane. And my frustration and anger at the lack of adequate response, even at a baseline level, from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden reminded me exactly of what our communities there on Maui faced in the wake of that tragic and historic wildfire that took over 100 people's lives. When I went there, Laura, to Lahaina and West Maui, just a couple of days after those wildfires completely destroyed the community, I heard from community leaders and neighbors, people who were helping their neighbors, trying to put the pieces back together. They did not see a single federal official on the ground. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they said, well, FEMA's on the ground. Sure, they are in downtown in the government buildings, but not boots on ground in the communities that saw their homes and their community completely devastated by this. And I have friends there in Asheville, North Carolina, and in other communities that have been devastated by Hurricane Helene, and they are saying the exact same thing. As you heard from that sheriff, they don't have access to water. They don't have access to electricity and communication. The same thing that happened to our communities in West Maui, and yet they've said we have not seen a single federal official on the ground, not even a FEMA, orange vest wearing person going out there and doing that assessment.
What are they doing?
It is truly.
I don't understand this.
They are focusing on bureaucracy.
Yeah, Deanne Criswell
They're focusing
is the
on
head
bureaucracy.
She's the head of FEMA. I don't know a lot about her. I know she worked for de Blasio. She was in the Air National Guard. She had some, fine service to her country. Was she the best person to head FEMA? I don't know. I mean, I know she worked for Obama at FEMA, but they made a big deal that she was the first female FEMA director. Like, just say that she's the most qualified person for the job. Again, I don't know if she is or not, but it seems to me that when they knew this hurricane was going to be big, and they knew it for days, Tulsi, we should have seen an all of government, as they like to call it, approach.
Yes.
That should have been laid out right away. And it wasn't there. She was in Nevada. She was campaigning. Come on.
Exactly. I can tell you, while I haven't done an actual poll, I would guess that if you ask the people of Maui whether she is qualified and the right person to be in that job, almost to a person, every one of them would have said no. The very first thing they heard from her was when she stood proudly in the White House press room saying, here's what we're doing for the people of Maui. We've given $700 to every household that's been impacted by this fire, as though that was something that was worthy of applause or recognition.
Wow.
It is unfortunate the people of North Carolina are facing a leadership in the White House who care more for bureaucracy rather than actually kicking down the doors of that bureaucracy and getting out there and providing the help that these families and communities direly need.
Well, chief executive officers don't just take briefings. They direct personnel. No. They direct, and Trump, well, you know this about Trump. He'd be like, why isn't this done already? He would send clippings back to people like, wait a second, why are we behind on this? Why is this trade deal not done? They got 5 trade deals done in 4 years. This administration, I don't believe they've gotten a single trade deal done for the United States. So, but he's demanding, but you want someone demanding in a situation like this. This is disturbing. Tulsi, I know your experience in math.
This is, to me, such a kick in the face to the average American who, when you pay taxes, you would think that whenever you most needed those taxes, that they would be there for you. Look at this picture that somebody put out. Ukraine, we've given $91 billion. Let me tell you this. They could give every family that has lost everything $10,000. $10,000, which would do a lot for families. Not $750, and they would still only spend $5-6 billion. $91 billion to Ukraine, $3.3 billion to Israel, almost $5 billion to Afghanistan, $563 million to Taiwan. Look at all the money at the bottom. $13,000 in EBT cards to people, $5,000 cash. But look, Helene families and Maui fires, $750, $700. Let's just give them pennies. Alex Sanchez, thank you so much for the super chat. Everybody show Alex some love in the chat. He said JD and Tulsi 2028 or JD and Cruz. Hey, I'd be with that ticket. Guys, this is messed up. To me, at the highest level, what you see the numbers here is messed up. Look at this video of somebody took of where things are at. Check out the words. This is heartbreaking. It says, show me footage of Ukraine that looks worse than this. We've given Ukraine over $175 billion in emergency aid. And then how much aid will Americans actually get? A one-time $750. God. America last. That's what it feels like. I mean, that's the thing too. I feel like that's the entire agenda with where things are at right now, is that there are Congress people right now that are so fed up with this. They're coming out, they're calling this out, and they're saying they're going to take action for the American people, which I'm super happy about. Check this out.
On to the White House catastrophe and the lack of care, empathy, concern for the American people. We've got Congressman Tim Burchett coming on right now. Congressman, welcome to the War Room. I've been seeing headlines. There's no FEMA money. The numbers are up in the billion-dollar ballpark. There's helicopters sitting at the ready. Not being used. What in the world's going on? Welcome to the War Room, Tim.
Hey, thank you, brother. In Tennessee, we're pretty much survivalists. They're pretty independent folks. They're taking care of business. You're seeing, I think most of that is on the North Carolina side. We've got people on the ground everywhere here in Tennessee, and I've talked to several people up there. Congress lady up there represents the 1st District. Jeremy Faison, the state rep. I talk to him on a regular basis. We are, I feel like they're doing pretty good work, but I would warn people about giving to these organizations. Stick with the ones you know. I like Samaritan's Purse. If you want somebody that's going to get in there, Billy Graham's son, and everybody's got their problems, but I think they have the least of them on those national or international incidents. And what really ticks me off is Mayorkas and this crappy administration giving, and you're correct, almost $1 billion to immigrants, illegal immigrants. They always want to say searchers. I don't know. They use some politically correct crap I don't really have time for. Had too much coffee and 2 Mountain Dews this morning, so I'm kind of jacked up. But I tell you, we are about to, we're seeing really a manifestation of what this administration does and does best. They steal from the taxpayers. They give to those that are not worthy of it, people that aren't American citizens. We're in all these damn wars everywhere. We send almost $200 billion to Ukraine. We've been paying people's mortgages and their retirement funds, and they'll tell you, well, we stopped it, but hell, we were giving it to them. And now Mayorkas is saying we're going to be out of money during this hurricane season, and I'm sure global warming will be one of the reasons they'll give and try to use that as some kind of campaign tactic. Listen, this bunch is so freaking tone deaf. I'll tell you what, if Donald Trump was in the White House and those longshoremen pulled that crap, he would go up there, he would be on the phone talking to them, talking tough. He wouldn't be talking like a Sunday school teacher. He'd talk like he knows how to talk to, and he would get this thing worked out. They're offered a 50% pay raise, and they're turning it down for a 70%, and they use the term, we're going to cripple this country. Listen,
them shoremen literally said that. They said, we want a 70% pay raise. They got offered a 50% pay raise, and they turned it down. And they said, if we don't get what we want, we will cripple the United States. Now, what kind of crap talk is that? You don't hurt your brother and your sister trying to get back at a company, especially when they offer you something as big as who the heck gets a 50% raise?
It's past the pale on this one, guys. I can't stress to you how important this election is. And this is a manifestation of all this stuff, of all of us sitting at home, twiddling our thumbs, listening to those airbags on The View or on the mainstream media to tell us what to do. And then when 40 million evangelical Christians are eligible to vote and less than 20 million of them vote, and you want to sit in your pews on Sunday and be arrogant, this is what happens. We're going to lose our dadgum country. People better get activated, and they better get motivated, and they better get their butts to the polls, or we will lose everything.
That's where we're at right now. You know, it's sad to say that, like, it's, for me, I'm thinking about the illegal migrants that might be voting, and they say, well, Joel, that's not going to happen. It's against the law. Guess what? Underage drinking is against the law, but kids still do it. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean that people don't do it. And right now we've got all this stuff coming out about Tim Walz, China Communist Party. Like, what the heck? Check this out. Oh, come on. Don't be loading on me now.
Have an old president in office.
Okay, so everybody seems to be worried about J.D. Vance and dishonesty, or Donald Trump and dishonesty. I never hear the same concern about Harris and the lies that she tells about Trump, or in Walz himself, who gave the most disastrous response to a question about his own dishonesty about being in Tiananmen Square that I've ever heard in a debate. He also did the same thing with Dana Bash when questioned about dishonesty a couple of months ago. And effectively what he has said is, sorry, guys, I'm too dumb to tell the truth. I mean, he called himself a knucklehead. I have bad grammar. This is a guy who holds himself up to be a school teacher and a coach. Is that the life lesson he's giving the kids that are under his care? Hey, you can lie, and then you can just kind of slough it off as being, you know, too dumb to tell the truth. I think we spend 99% of our time going down rabbit holes about Vance and Trump and honesty in campaigns, and we spend no time at all holding Walz and Harris to the same standard, and I don't understand it.
Right there. I love it. I love when Scott Jennings comes on CNN, calls them out, ain't afraid to stand up to them, because this to me is unsettling. Any person that has this close of ties to China does not need to be anywhere near the top tier office of the United States.
A whistleblower from the Department of Homeland Security has revealed that the agency has information on Governor Tim Walz's ties to the Chinese Communist Party. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer joins me now. Okay, sir, what is Walz's connection to China?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. He's been to China, by his own estimates, over 30 times. That could be many more than that, but that seems like a significant number of times. Even before he was ever in politics, he was going to China. And what we know from our investigation that the committee's been leading against China and our federal government, which had nothing to do with Tim Walz, was that the FBI monitors people in the United States who make an excessive number of trips to China for unknown purposes. You know, you have people that go to China regularly for business. They may be at work for a Fortune 500 company that has a plant in China or whatever, but it doesn't appear Tim Walz has any business relationship with China. And I don't think he's been very forthcoming about why he's been to China so many times. We know he lied and said he was in China during the Tiananmen Square massacre, and we found out he was in Nebraska. We know he's lied about serving in Afghanistan when he did not serve in Afghanistan. So Walz really hasn't said much about why he goes to China, and we want to know, and this whistleblower came forward with information that there were communications within the federal government of people concerned about Walz's excessive travels to China and his meetings with people in the Chinese Communist Party. So that's what we're trying to determine. We're trying to get that information out, and obviously we'll be transparent with the American people.
Congressman, Special Counsel Jack Smith has revealed more details about Trump's efforts to overturn, what are allegedly efforts to overturn the 2020 election. My question is, why was all this detail revealed now?
Yeah, well, it's just election interference. There's no question about it. Ironically, yesterday when Jack Smith came out with this, my committee got notified by the National Archives. We've been requesting communication between Joe Biden and all of the Biden shady associates that were involved in the influence peddling schemes, where Joe Biden was communicating with them through a pseudonym email. National Archives has those. They should have turned them over with a simple FOIA request. They've been sitting on them. They called us, they reached out to us yesterday and said they're going to turn them over after the election. So on the same day Jack Smith does this, within 40 days of the election, the government responds to our credible investigation and says, we're not going to give you anything until after the election. I think that shows the two-tier system of justice in America. And clearly the timing of Smith's recent stunt reeks of election interference.
There's not going to be any kind of trial or judgment in the Jack Smith case before the election, right?
That's right. That's right. This was just a PR stunt just to give bad press to Trump after Tim Walz's disastrous vice presidential debate. I mean, it's clear what they're doing. The government, the Department of Justice, they continue to collude with the mainstream media. They can continue to weaponize our court system. And I hope the American people see what's going on and react accordingly in November.
Congressman James Comer.
Man, let me tell you this. Like, we're in such a cluster right now. Not only are they finding ties, so check it out. They got ties with Walz and the China Communist Party. But that's not what's headlined right now. It's headlined that Trump in the trial in details when there's not even going to be a court case, when there's not even going to be trial. And then we got this crazy story where Biden doesn't want to target Iran. He said that they're literally within 48 hours of them having the necessary things to create a weapon of mass destruction, and Biden doesn't want to do anything. Tell me your thoughts in the comments, but check this out.
President Biden said no to any impact on Iran's nuclear sites. We're going to get back to Randy Weber in a moment. I'm scratching my head here in terms of why President Biden was so adamant, no, we cannot touch Iran's nuclear sites. Jonathan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Everything he does, he just really exudes weakness on the world stage. And it's amazing to me, every time he has an opportunity, I think, to show strength or to stand up for America or stand up for allies, he always misses the mark. And really, this is probably prolonging this far longer than it needs to be. And it's just, you know, why can't he just say things with clarity and conviction? It's just this mumbling mess, and it doesn't send the right message. It's better, it would be better off if he said nothing, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, Congressman, I want to get your take on what you heard from President Biden, because he just said, when answering the question, would you support Israel's response to Iran hitting their nuclear sites? He said the answer is no. So why should we feel like Iran is a responsible player on the global stage to actually have nuclear weaponry?
Good morning, Maria. It's unbelievable to me that the president would say, well, I shouldn't say it's unbelievable. That's been his tact all along. Israel has the right to defend itself. For those of us who know history, the way we took out the German regime was we bombed their oil sites. We cut off their infrastructure. We did the things that we had to do because, let's remember, they attacked us. They killed millions and millions of Jews. Iran is exporting terror. Why do we have to somehow play fair with them? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't understand why that's his first answer. No, don't touch their nuclear sites. He's got to explain that. I mean, he really needs to explain that. I mean, you know, that and all the other fires that are happening all across the world, he needs to explain. It's day 3 of this strike, the East and Gulf Coast port strike. Nearly half of American shipping hangs in the balance. Workers are vowing to stay on the picket line until a deal is reached, and Vice President Kamala Harris has voiced her support for the unions on the picket line. She wrote this yesterday: "This strike is about fairness. Foreign-owned shipping companies have made record profits. The longshoremen deserve a fair share of these record profits." As nearly 300 trade associations are now urging President Biden to invoke the Taft-Hartley and stop the strike before it becomes an issue for the economy and national security. Biden claims he will.
Do y'all want to know what the average and starting out pay is for the the people that work at the ports, $81,000. Go fact check me. It's $81,000. The officers that work within it, the higher up managers, they all average making over $200,000 a year. The guy who is the president, who came out and said that he's going to cripple the economy if they don't get what they want, makes over $750,000 a year. They are asking for a 70% increase. They also get this, a pension of $150,000 a year even after they stop working. So you tell me, compared to the rest of America's working class, where do they stand? And do they really need fairness in asking for a 70% raise when, by golly, I would think that a lot of people would be thankful to get a 50% raise? Let me know your thoughts.
Not invoke this law, but he acknowledged that some impacts of the strike are happening. Here's what he said yesterday. Watch.
We're getting pushback already. We're hearing from the folks regionally that they're having trouble getting product they need because of the port strike. And look, there's a consortium of basically 6 owners that control all the ports from all the way to the East Coast down around the Gulf. And they've made incredible profits, over 800% profit since the pandemic. And the owners are making tens of millions of dollars in this. The last thing they need is to profit off of this. It's time for them to sit at the table and get this strike done.
Congressman, here too, you've got Joe Biden siding with the strikers on the picket lines. Look, I don't know who's right here, but why is it always the corporation's fault? Right? They want a 77% raise, and immediately you see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden siding with the strikers. I mean, is this all political? Are they just that desperate for the union vote?
They've been that desperate for a long time, Maria. The Taft-Hartley Act, by the way, was passed in 1947 by Congress over Truman's veto. That's how big of a deal it was. They understood that when there was a national need for Americans, that there was a time when the president could intervene. But you're going to see Biden and Harris do all these things. It's campaign time, and they're not going to step in on behalf of the American people. They're not going to invoke that for an 80-day cooling off period. They're just not, and that should surprise nobody.
I mean, why not? You know, we're actually about to feel the impact of this a crisis in the middle of the other crisis that we're dealing with, the border crisis. We've got a new report which shows several federal agencies did not assess the risk of releasing non-citizens into the country and letting them board domestic flights without ID. Okay, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration, Customs Enforcement, and the Transportation Security Administration, all implicated in this report by the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General. CBP and...
Look what this says at the bottom, y'all. This literally bothers me because this doesn't get said enough. So DHS, after 11+ million people have come in, they finally admit that migrants with terror ties will exploit the border. Nah, duh. Like, are you kidding me? Trump has been saying this the entire time. Trump has been saying what? That they're sending terrorists in here. We've had, when the entire time that Trump was in office, there was, let me tell you this, 11 terrorists that tried to come in. 11. With Biden and Harris, there's been over 300. That is how bad it is. And that's only the ones that we caught. What about the known gotaways? This is what bothers me, is that we're only now getting the facts, but the damage has been done. But this is where, again, enough is enough, and we need to stand up and vote the right people in.
Accept self-reported biographical information on immigration forms. Can you imagine? They just accept whatever these migrants are going to tell them. Then they allow them to get on domestic flights without IDs. I mean, no kidding that they didn't assess the risks. A separate DHS threat report sounds the alarm on the terrorist threat presented at the border as well. That report writes this: over the next year, we expect some individuals with terrorism ties and some criminal actors will continue their efforts.
Deanna Scott faithful member of the channel. Thank you so much for the super chat. Everybody, show Deanna some love in the chat. She says, it's not much, but my heart hurts for those that got hit by the hurricane. I'm praying that more will help by doing a super chat. God bless us all. Everybody, let me tell you this. We are just like we did last month. We did a donation to the Isaiah 117 house. We're going to do this month a donation to the hurricane victims through the membership money and the super chats that come in. We're going to do it live on the channel.
Exploit migration flows. Meanwhile, President Biden claims he's extending asylum restrictions now. After 4 years of a wide-open border, now he's expanding restrictions on asylum 33 days before the election, Congressman. I mean, this administration has put this country in dire jeopardy.
Golly.
Well, you said it earlier, Maria, that suddenly the president has gotten religion. What he needs is repentance. You know, he needs to come, he needs to have he needs to come back for American people. If you knew all the facts, and I'm sure you all do, as of July 24, more than 7 million illegal aliens are under final orders for removal, but are not detained. They don't know where they are. And you could go through this, the women and the girls that have been raped and tortured, some of them killed. It's unbelievable that this would be their posture. But yes, all of a sudden, it's election time, and now he has religion. Too little, too late.
For what
you
reason?
And I can't fly like that, Maria.
For what reason did he leave these borders wide open? I mean, every American should be outraged. We've had murders, rapes, and we have these people still walking around the country. And now this report from DHS, they all should have accountability for what they've done these last 4 years.
Well, absolutely, and the president is at the top of that. Kamala Harris is at the top of that. Supposedly being the border czar, she never went. You remember the infamous, she was talking to some reporter, and he says, have you been to the border? And she laughed. And she said, no, but I've not been to Europe either, if you remember that.
Yeah,
they don't have any accountability. They don't have any accountability. They don't care what happens to Americans. Most of us think that they want more people in congressional districts so that they can win more seats.
That's it. It's about...
Let me tell you this. They did a poll, and they showed that 44% of people think that Kamala Harris would do a better job at the border than Trump. I'm telling you this. We got a lot of people that need some help and some prayer in the United States if they think that's true. Trump was the one who said he wanted to build a border wall. Harris called it a vanity project, called it useless, called it something that we shouldn't waste taxpayer money on. But it's okay to use taxpayer money to allow all the migrants to come in. It is such a disgrace. It breaks my heart to see that we don't have any money for the FEMA because $640 million of that money that was supposed to go to FEMA people, to people that are in these tragedies, was given to migrants, illegals. Like, are you kidding me? It's heartbreaking, y'all. But like I said, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting the subscribe button. We are going to make a donation this month through the memberships of this channel, the super chats, to the hurricane victims in for that, in just the whole big thing that Trump has started. Like, we're going to make that big donation. Just want to say thank you to everybody that has blessed the channel with a like. If you haven't liked the video, please do so. We want to serve you every day with the top news. And just want to say thank you to Doreen Bryson, Pam Campbell, new member of the family, the True Life News family, Alex Sanchez, Deanna Scott. Thank y'all so much for these blessings that we are going to use to bless others. We appreciate you all. We are here to serve you, and we're going to do great things with this channel. We love you. We thank you, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.